sorry, reached my file size limit there. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, it's had a really big impact on kids' TV ever since, really. I mean, certainly, the late 20th century went through. As telly became more and more of a dominant force in people's lives, I suppose. Children's programmes, especially, have become a really big creative force. I mean, this is one of the things that I enjoy about watching children's TV. The artistic license that people can take, making shows for kids. I mean, for dramas for adults, I just find a bit samey, really. Visually, very samey. In terms of characters, very samey. I don't find them particularly memorable. I don't find them very relatable. But yeah, things for kids, I just find exciting to watch and to analyse, and to admire the sort of artistic license they can take. And the way the characters and the stories are constructed sort of appeal to me on some level as well. I think maybe because they don't try too hard to make it complicated and to try and make the viewer feel clever for being able to follow it. I just find that quite tiresome, really. It is all about the character development, about the backgrounds, about the the colour palette, about the the sort of visual impact of it. There's a lot of that. And that's what I really enjoy about watching children's TV. And it's short as well. You can watch several episodes in a very short time. I do find ones that have sort of maybe hour-long episodes quite time-consuming to watch. You have to sort of set aside an evening if you're going to spend any particular time watching, getting to know the series and the characters and what have you. You have to, really make a big commitment there. But when they're only sort of 10-15 minutes, it's not such an issue. But yes, Camberwick Green in particular, I just find it an absolutely beautiful vision. I enjoy getting to know all the characters. I enjoy the stories. I love the humour. I like the kind of almost self-deprecating humour in it. I mean, there's an episode where a swarm of bees comes and terrorises the village, and I just find it so sort of sweet and funny that that's a crisis. They call in the army. The policeman attends because there's a swarm of bees there. And that's the kind of level of drama we're working with here. And the undercurrent of humour is that all the characters take it deadly seriously. The threat of getting stung by a bee. This is major drama. That definitely appeals to my sense of humour. There's of course there's the notorious episode which I'm going to address. I'm going to address the sort of really notorious episode where Windy Miller gets absolutely smashed on cider, and there's no flour. There's sort of a lot of discussion going on, like, oh, I can't believe this was allowed in those days, or you wouldn't get that on kids' TV these days. Yeah, the commenters tend to fall into two camps with that. I don't know. I mean, it happened. It was on the show. I think whether you consider that not something that children should be watching, or whether you consider it something that adds some gritty realism. I think is a matter of opinion. I'm not absolutely sure where I stand on it. I'm sort of quite sat on the fence. I think it just sort of had quite a bit of depth to his character as well. Another sort of facet. He's not always available to be helpful when needed. I mean, there's quite a lot of references actually to Windy Miller making his own cider. That's the only time you actually see him, getting really, really drunk. Again, I think it's very much a matter of opinion whether you consider that a positive or a negative or a neutral point. A lot of people do sort of describe him as being an alcoholic or something. I think, is he an alcoholic? He overdid it once in the middle of the afternoon. 99% of the time he's fine. Yeah, as I say, I'm sort of down the middle on that. It doesn't particularly make me dislike him as a character, or sort of not want my nearly 3-year-old son to watch the show or anything. I think it's is it a detail that's of its time? I don't know. It's not something that appears in other kids' shows of that era. Usually very clean. I think as well it is an aspect of that sort of slightly undercurrent of faintly dark very grown up humour that's going on as well. Things that you probably would not want, particularly expect the preschool intended audience to fully understand. And I think that probably goes for the army as well. There's Pippin Fort, the military training academy, and Captain Snort and Sergeant Major Grout are training the boys to be soldiers. I think that's that's another thing that you just don't really see in kids' programmes. Military. If you really want to put your mind to it, someone who was training to be a soldier in 1966 would have seen action. They'd probably fought in the Falklands, the First Gulf War, spent time in Northern Ireland. Maybe looking a bit too deeply into it there, but it is something that regularly occurs to me when I see the scenes at Pippin Fort. are. I mean, they are sort of faintly ridiculous. It's certainly not glorifying the military. They're all sort of dressed up in nutcracker uniforms and little powdered wigs and things. It's all a bit silly, and there's always one soldier who sort of does something a bit wrong, and the captain is sort of depicted as being kind of a bit pompous and a bit shouty. It's it's a really interesting depiction, I think. And they are sort of useful in that they can, as a plot device, be anywhere doing anything as some sort of training exercise. Um, um, I'm actually running out of steam. Yeah, it does puzzle me. Going back to what I was saying earlier, it does puzzle me that it was never recreated. I mean, a few people have said, "Oh no, it could never be recreated." You see sort of comment sections saying, "No, you couldn't redo that. It's just so of its time." I think Thomas the Tank Engine has been set in the post-war era for 60 years, 70 years, and that's still wildly popular. My son and his friends, they all love Thomas the Tank Engine. Being set in the past does not bother little kids as much as parents expect it will. I don't think it could really be brought into the 21st century without some sort of major changes, because it is, the setting is so of its time, as I say. But I don't see the reason it couldn't be reshown. Or someone couldn't, make a few more episodes. I mean, I've seen a few reboots lately that have been, really well done. And the new Clangers is pretty good. That's just, so true to the original and so lovingly made. It's I really enjoy watching the new Clangers. I mean, it's slightly different from the old one in that, the old one used to be, about the little aliens on their planet going out exploring space and finding funny objects and seeing what they do. There isn't really any of that. They stick very much to what the first two series left behind, and don't really introduce a lot of new stuff. But all the old favourite characters like the Soup Dragon and the Iron Chicken and the Hoot and the Froglets, they all pop up. They all have a little story, and then there's some sort of moral message usually by the end, like be yourself, or don't give up, or whatever, which gets a bit trite. But yeah, I do enjoy the new Clangers, which I didn't think I would, but I did. Of course, the new Postman Pat I actually think is better than the old one. I didn't actually enjoy Postman Pat all that much when I was a kid. But yeah, watching it again with my son, watching the new one, I think they've really injected a new life into it. I mean, a lot of the details have changed. It is very much, 21st century setting. It's moved to a city. And Postman Pat, he sort of uses a helicopter sometimes. He's always got a problem with how he's going to deliver a funny parcel to an odd place, and he uses different modes of transport and things. And sometimes he travels all over the country. But yeah, it works. It really works, and I like it. I mean, there have been some reboots that weren't so good, as I mentioned the Bill and Ben one earlier. I mean, that was just like watching a completely different show. And there were some episodes of Fireman Sam, yeah, they kind of CGI'd it, and I think quite often when a stop motion show changes to CGI, it's a good indication that the writers are giving up. Bob the Builder, when it turned to CGI, it was rubbish. I think probably Bob the Builder was probably the closest that the 21st century really came to Camberwick Green. You know, when they did the episodes in Sunflower Valley, and they made a little eco town, and there was a windmill. There was a windmill in Bob the Builder. Again, it was sort of out a little community that was sort of living out in the countryside, cooperating with each other, helping each other, getting through difficulties together, with some interesting vehicles. But yeah, I might talk about Bob the Builder another time. Actually, there's a lot. I've got quite a lot to say about Bob the Builder. But yeah, I think the whole of children's television for the last 54 years owes a lot to Camberwick Green individually. I think it really changed the pace. And as I say, people do look back on it as being sort of very very twee and safe, and it wasn't. If I don't know what programme they were watching, but it certainly wasn't the Camberwick Green I've seen. It's really insightful, It's psychologically very very interesting. The way the characters' minds work. They behave in sort of sensible, reasonable ways. They all have individual personalities, sometimes very subtle personalities. It's emotionally acute, The narrator, Brian Cant, he was very big in kids' TV at the time. It was in the 60s and 70s. It talks, it describes why the characters are doing what they're doing, and it's not always obvious, Sometimes the characters don't say anything. Sometimes they just smile quietly to themselves. Yeah, it's a very, very interesting show. I'm going to leave it there because Zeb's going to start jumping on me again. And yes, I will see you in the next film.